The line they shouldn't have crossed. The stars over Sector 12 had been silent for almost a century. No ships, no signals, no trade routes, just a dead zone surrounded by rumors. Every species in the galaxy knew one thing. Terran space was closed. No one knew why. No one dared ask Dot, but the Krivan Empire didn't care about old warnings. They were a proud race giant, armored insect-like beings who ruled over 20 star systems. Their fleet was massive, their soldiers brutal, and their leaders arrogant. To them, silence wasn't a warning. It was weakness. High Commander Thrix stood tall on the bridge of the warship Craxil Vengeance, staring at the flickering map. Nothing, the navigator said. No signals, no beacons, no defense grids. It's like no one lives there. Perfect, Thrix said. Then we'll take it. Terran space now belonged to the Krivan Empire. His officers hissed in agreement. Across their Fleet 37 heavily. Armed warships' orders were given. Engines roared. Plasma weapons were armed. They moved in formation, entering the edge of Sector 12. But something was wrong. The stars seemed duller here. The light felt cold. Even the strongest sensors gave strange readings. Artificial gravity flickered. Time moved oddly. System interference, said one technician. Probably old tech messing with our instruments. Thrix shrugged. Then destroy it. But there was nothing to destroy. No stations. No satellites. No signs of life. Just silence. And then a ping. A small dot appeared on the ship's radar. Something tiny. No life signs. Moving slowly toward them. Unknown object approaching. The sensor officer said. It was an old drone-blackened metal, rusted edges, engines barely functional. It looked like it hadn't flown in years. No weapons. No shields. Just floating, a joke. Bring it on screen, Thrix said. The bridge lights dimmed as the drone's video feed played. The screen lit up with static, then cleared to show a message written. In the Krivan language, perfect and chilling. You have entered Terran space. This is your only warning. No voice, no emotion. Just the message. Then the drone turned and flew back into the dark. The crew was silent. One of the officers finally spoke. Commander. They warned us. Thrix snarled. One drone? That's their warning? That's their defense? He laughed loudly. They've gone weak. That's why they've hidden for so long. The crew joined in, nervous but obedient. Thrix raised his clawed hand and shouted, Full advance! Burn everything ahead. Terran space is ours now. The ships moved forward, but as they crossed deeper into Sector 12, strange things started happening. The stars above shifted, unnaturally moving without logic. 2 ships lost all internal lighting. One scout vessel spun out of control, even though its engines were stable. The captain of another ship reported hearing whispers in the comms. But there was no signal. One by one, the ships lost contact for just seconds at first. Then minutes. Something's watching us. One crew member whispered. Silence. Thrix barked. The Terrans are playing tricks. Psychological warfare. But even he couldn't ignore what happened next. The fleet's ladship Krolaig exploded. No warning. No fire. Just a flash of white light, and then it was gone. Vanished from existence. No debris, the sensor officer said, voice shaking. No heat, no wreckage. Then, across all ships, the same message appeared on every screen, written in bold, burning red. We warned you. The lights dimmed. Again, silence returned. Thrix gripped the railing of his command deck, breathing heavily. Behind him, one of the younger officers whispered, What? What are Terrans? Thrix didn't answer. He couldn't, because deep inside, for the first time in his life, he felt something no Krivan had ever known. Fear. and the stars began to bleed. Asterisk the silence before the fire. 770 words. Simple English. Third-person style. The bridge of Cragsel Vengeance was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The red message still glowed on every screen. We warned you. Thrix stood frozen, his claws digging into the metal railing. For the first time, he wasn't sure what to do. "Commander," the sensor officer whispered. We've lost 7 ships." "What?" Thrix spun around. "They're gone, sir. No trace." One second they were there. Next second nothing. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Just erased. The crew looked at one another with wide, unblinking eyes. "Scan again." Thrix barked. "We already are," another officer replied, voice shaking. "There's nothing to scan." Outside the viewport, the stars flickered, blinking like dying eyes. Something felt wrong with space itself. As the remaining ships tried to regroup, another signal came. But this time, it wasn't a message. It was music. Strange, slow music, old Terran piano notes, drifting through open channels. The tune was haunting, filled with sadness. And behind it, the sound of a human voice. It was soft, calm, and full of warning. You were told. One warning, one chance. Everyone on the bridge turned pale. Thrix growled, "Mute that signal." We can't," the communications officer stammered. "It's everywhere. Every frequency. Even on closed channels." Another ship blinked out. No explosion. No weapon fire. Just gone. The fleet's tight formation was falling apart. One captain called in, his voice nearly breaking. "We need to retreat. There's no fight here. There's no enemy to see." Thrix stared at the dark screen ahead, where empty space had just claimed another warship. "Retreat?" he hissed. "To tell the galaxy the mighty Crivern ran away from shadows?" But then something appeared. Not a fleet. Not a ship. A single Terran cruiser. It looked old. It wasn't shiny or large. It didn't glow with energy or carry terrifying weapons. But it hovered there, right in the center of Terran space, completely still. "Only one?" Thrix said, his voice cracking. "That's what they send?" The comms clicked again. "The same." Voice returned. "You wanted to test the line. Now see what happens when it breaks." Suddenly, the space around the Terran ship bent and twisted like liquid. And ships started appearing. Dozens. Hundreds. Thousands. Black and red, shaped like jagged blades, and wolves and monsters. All silent. All still. The Terran fleet had arrived, but no signals, no engine sounds, no flashing lights. Just quiet death hanging in space. The Crivern fleet, once proud and unstoppable, now looked like ants caught in a storm. The crew of Cragsel Vengeance couldn't believe their eyes. These ships weren't on sensors. How are they cloaked? Someone whispered, "No energy signatures." They weren't even there a moment ago. Thrix's legs shook. This isn't war," he muttered. "This is punishment." And the Terran fleet moved. No warning. No countdown. Just instant destruction. One Crivern cruiser exploded into a silent burst of white-blue flame. Another was cut in half by a beam of light that lasted less than a second. Ships vanished again, blinked out of space. The Terrans didn't. Broadcast orders. They didn't gloat. They didn't laugh. They just erased everything that had crossed their border. Thrix gave the order, "Retreat. All ships. Now." But it was too late. Only 9 ships remained. Only 2 engines responded. As Cragsel Vengeance turned, a shadow passed over the ship larger than anything they had ever seen. A Terran dreadnought, darker than space itself, glided silently above. Them. It broadcasted a single word. "Go." And then it disappeared. The rest of the Terran fleet turned and vanished, too like ghosts melting into the stars. No celebration. No trace, no message. Just silence. And only 3 Krivern ships were left to tell the tale. Asterisk. What the survivors saw, 770 words. Third person, simple English. High suspense. 3 ships. Made it out alive. Just 3. From a powerful fleet of 37 Krivern warships. Only 3 limped through hyperspace scarred, broken, and silent. They didn't speak to each other. They couldn't. The crews were in shock. Some whispered to themselves. Some stared at blank walls. Some refused to believe they had survived at all. High, Commander Thrix sat in the medical bay of his own ship, breathing slowly, hooked up to pain stabilizers. A deep gash ran across his side, and his eyes were hollow. His second in command, Vor, entered quietly. "Commander," Vor said, lowering his head, "they are calling for you." Thrix didn't move. "No," he said quietly, "but no reports, no words." "No lies," Thrix whispered. "They need truth, and I have none to give." Vor stood silent, unsure. What to say? The silence was too heavy for war veterans like them. "Do you remember what it felt like?" Thrix asked suddenly. "When the stars bent and time slowed?" Vor nodded slowly. "It felt like death was watching. Like we were already inside something we didn't understand." Thrix looked at him. "They weren't ships," he said. "Those things they sent at us. They were judgments." Across the Krivern Empire, leaders waited for answers. The Empire had never lost a battle, never suffered a defeat this large, never lost commanders like THRIX. Now. They had only rumors. The 3 surviving ships were called before the Imperial War Council. Thrix, weak but alive, stood in the central chamber facing the glowing circle of overlords. One of them hissed, "Explain what happened." Thrix raised his head slowly. "We entered Terran space." "That much we know," said another. "You were told to observe, not invade. We were warned." That quiet sentence made the entire room still. "By who?" The warlord asked. "A drone," Thrix said. "An old machine flying alone. It said one sentence: you have entered Terran space. This is your only warning. And you ignored it?" Thrix nodded once. Another voice asked, "Was there a fleet waiting?" "Yes," Thrix said, "but not at first. Only one ship came. Then everything changed." He described the fleet of Terran vessels appearing from the shadows. He spoke of the destruction, clean, fast, silent. He told them how no human voice shouted commands. No orders were given. "They didn't come to fight," Thrix said. "They came to end us." One of the council members laughed. "You mean humans scared the great Thrix? How did they destroy so many ships with so little effort?" Thrix stepped forward. His voice turned sharper. "You don't understand. They didn't use force like we do. They used silence. They used space itself. They didn't need to fire 100 missiles. One was enough. The rest of the ships vanished, gone. From time." The room grew colder. Thrix looked around at them and said firmly, "This is not a war we can win. This is a boundary we must respect." The head of the council leaned forward. "Are you saying we bow to humans?" Thrix stared him in the eyes. "I'm saying we should be glad they let us leave." Silence again, and then the council dismissed. As Thrix walked out of the chamber, Vor joined him, looking tense. "They don't believe you," Vor said. "I know," Thrix replied. "They'll send another fleet." "I know. Then what do we do?" Thrix looked toward the stars through the station's window. "We wait," he said. "And when they cross the line again, they'll vanish, just like we almost did." A message came in moments later, urgent. Flashing red. Another Krivern scouting team had entered the edge of Terran space. 4 ships. All contact. Lost. No signals. No. Wreckage. Just silence. The same silence that spoke louder than any weapon. Asterisk, the warning the galaxy ignored. 770 words. Third person, simple English, high suspense news of the destroyed Krivern fleet. Spread fast. But not everyone believed it. The Council of the Unified Species met 3 days later on a neutral space station orbiting a red dwarf. Delegates from 67 different alien civilizations sat inside a massive silver dome, each glowing screen behind them showing their homeworlds. Whispers filled the air. Humans did this? Impossible. Terran space has been empty for 100 years. Maybe it was a black hole. Maybe the Krivern lied. The official Krivern report was rejected. The Council claimed it had incomplete evidence and emotional exaggeration. Only one race believed the report. The Jirali, a peaceful aquatic species, had once traded with Earth decades ago. Before humans went silent. Their ambassador, Merith, rose from her platform, her eyes deep and calm. I believe the Krivern, she said. The room laughed. The Terrans gave a warning, Merith continued. They told us once, long ago, to never cross into their stars. We thought they vanished. We thought they were gone. But they were only watching. Watching. What? Someone asked Mockingly.Mare to look around. Us. The room fell quiet. Their silence wasn't weakness, she added. It was control. A voice from the back shouted, even if they did destroy a fleet, so what? There are thousands of us. One planet can't stand against the galaxy. Merith replied softly, that's the mistake the Krivern made. She sat down, but no action was taken. No votes passed. No warning spread. The galaxy continued as if nothing had changed. Ships resumed patrols. Freighters passed near the border of Terran space, and the silence remained until it didn't. 3 weeks later, a cargo ship from the Haravi Republic went. Missing. No distress call. No wreckage. Just gone. Then, 2 exploration vessels from the Kellanor Union disappeared near Sector 12. Still, the Council stayed quiet. No blame. No response. Until a Terran message arrived. This time, it wasn't silent. It was sent across all Council frequencies, translated into every known language. A human woman appeared on screen, her face cold, her uniform black and red, marked. With a simple crest, a single burning star. She spoke clearly. We asked once, you ignored us. We warned once, you laughed. Now we speak for the last time. Her eyes looked straight through the screen, like she could see every soul watching. Terran space is closed. Entry means erasure. The galaxy may do as it pleases, but not in our skies. The message ended. No name, no location, no signal trace, but every being who saw her face remembered it. The woman didn't speak with anger. She spoke with certainty. Back on the Krivern homeworld, Thrix sat alone in his quarters. He watched the message replay on loop. Vor entered slowly. The Council wants to open diplomatic channels. Thrix shook his head. They won't answer. They want to send envoys. No one will return. Then, what should we do? Thrix looked out the window toward the distant star where it all began. Warn them, he said. Even if they won't listen, record it, broadcast it. Tell every species we can. Vor paused. Do you think this is war? No, Thrix replied. This is protection. We crossed a line they drew in blood. They didn't fight us. They simply removed us. And if we keep pushing? Thrix looked down at his shaking hands. They'll remove us all. The day the border burned, approximately 770 words. Third person, simple English, high suspense. Warning had been sent. Clear, final, cold. But the galaxy still didn't listen. Some races believed it was a bluff. Others called it propaganda. A few. Even thought the Terrans were using some kind of illusion technology faking destruction to scare people away. So, when the Velari Syndicate sent a fleet of 22 warships to test Terran borders, the rest of the galaxy watched with interest. This time, they sent reporters, drones, live feeds, science vessels, observers from 3 different empires. They all wanted to see what happened if someone crossed that invisible line. The Velari commander, Admiral Raxon, stood tall on the deck of his flagship Bladed Honor, a proud warrior with metal bones and a long history of burning planets. He looked at the camera and smiled. To the Terrans, "If you're watching this, your silence ends today," he said. "We don't bow to myths." Cheers erupted across Velari channels. The fleet moved. 22 sleek black ships crossed into Terran space. Nothing happened at first. Sensors worked. Weapons were charged. The silence seemed empty. The ships continued deeper. Observers watched closely. Tens of billions tuned in across the galaxy, expecting to finally expose the truth. 5 minutes in, Admiral Raxon laughed. "Still nothing. This is your great threat? Empty stars and dusty voids?" But then, one of the science vessels stopped, responding. Then a drone went blind, then another, and another. Within 30 seconds, all observers outside Terran space lost connection. The Velari ships were on their own, inside the fleet. Systems began to flicker. Artificial gravity shifted. Engines pulsed strangely. Time slowed. Admiral Raxon growled, "Diagnostics now." His engineer scrambled. "All readings are normal except time signatures. Something's wrong with space itself." Then a signal. A single word echoed through all ships in a calm female Terran voice. "Gone." The lights died. The Velari flagship twisted in on itself. Cameras on board captured strange distortions in the stars, like something massive was bending reality around it. Crew members screamed as corridors stretched and vanished. One by one, the ships winked out of existence. Not exploded, not shot. Just removed. No Terran ships appeared. No visible weapons. Just deletion. The observers waiting outside the border never saw what happened. After 20 minutes, their screens turned black. Then, one final transmission came, only audio. A calm voice. The same woman from before. "You were told. The line is not a suggestion. This galaxy is yours, but this space is ours." Then silence. Panic spread. Galactic news networks exploded in confusion. The Velari Empire denied the loss, but within hours, grieving families began posting messages. Half the council demanded action. The other half began quietly moving ships away from Terran borders. The Jirali ambassador, Merith, spoke once more. To the council, "Now you've seen it. Not myth, not trickery. Truth." A Aldari scientist asked, "But what are they using? What weapon can bend time like that?" Merith shook her head. "You're still asking how. But you should be asking, why?" No one answered. And far away, at the edge of Terran space, a single satellite blinked to life. It broadcasted an old human phrase in every galactic language. No entry, no exceptions. On the Krivern homeworld, Thrix watched it all unfold on a private screen. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He simply turned off the feed and whispered to himself, "They gave us a chance. And the galaxy had thrown it away." Asterisk. The wall no one can cross. Approximately 770 words. Third person. Simple English, high suspense Terran space had become a ghost zone. No one entered. No one returned. And now, no one even looked toward it. What used to be a map filled with stars and sectors was now just a black box labeled "Do not enter." A dead zone, not because it was empty, but because it was too full. Full of power, full of silence, full of something that the galaxy had no words. 4. Some called it cursed, others said it was sacred. But deep inside, everyone knew the truth. It was claimed. In the halls of the Unified Council. Fear grew day by day. Trade routes were rerouted. Exploration projects were canceled. Even the bravest fleets kept an extra day's distance from Terran borders. But there were still questions. How could one species build something like this? How could humans disappear for a century and return stronger than the galaxy? And what was this wall that erased anything that touched it? A secret meeting was called. In Sector 7, a hidden moon base used only for high-level intelligence. Scientists, tacticians, and former military leaders gathered behind sealed doors. Among them was an old human ally, Ambassador Run of the Noric Coalition. A small owl-like species once close to Earth. He had a message. He stood at the center of the room, cleared his throat, and said, "You all think it's a wall made of weapons, lasers, technology, force fields." The room watched him closely, but it's not. He paused. "It's made of promise." Confused voices rose. "What do you mean?" Someone asked. Run replied, "Humans never wanted to conquer the galaxy. They didn't want control. They didn't ask for obedience. They asked for respect, just once." He held up an old data crystal. "This is the last official message Earth sent before they vanished." The room leaned in. Run pressed play. A human voice spoke. A calm male tone. "We will not expand. We will not interfere. But if you come to our skies, if you test our kindness, if you ignore our words, you will not find war. You will find nothing. Because we will take everything." Silence followed. One scientist whispered, "They built the wall for mourning." "Alone," Run nodded. "And now it stands not because of weapons, but because everyone knows what happens beyond it." Back on a small observation station near Terran space, a junior technician watched the black void on her monitor. Nothing moved. Not a single star blinked. But she still felt it. The presence. She whispered to her commander, "Sir, it's like they're watching." "They are," the commander replied. "They always are." The technician leaned forward. "Why don't they speak anymore? Why don't they send diplomats?" The commander didn't answer right away. He stared at the void. Then he said, "Because they already said everything they needed to. Once." Suddenly, a soft sound echoed across their screens. It wasn't a signal. It wasn't a warning. It was a heartbeat. Just one. And then nothing. No ships appeared. No message followed. But across every border monitoring post, across every planet close to Terran space, the heartbeat played once and then stopped. It was a reminder, not a threat. A pulse to say, "We're still here." In the council halls, the debate finally ended. No fleets would go. No probes would be sent. No questions would be asked. The vote passed. Terran space is to remain untouched forever. Some saw it as surrender. Others saw it as survival. But everyone knew one thing now. There was a wall no one could cross. Not because it couldn't be breached, but because no one wanted to know what waited on the other side. Asterisk. The silence that guards the stars. 770 words. Third person, simple English. Powerful ending years passed. Terran space remained untouched. No ships dared enter. No probes crossed the line. No governments discussed invasion anymore. The galaxy moved on, but never forgot. Maps were redrawn. New trade routes circled far around the Black Zone. Children were taught in schools. Terran space is forbidden. No one questioned it. No one needed to. Because everyone remembered what silence meant. It meant humanity was still watching, still waiting, still there. On a distant world, an old Krivern veteran named Thrix sat beneath a gray sky. His armor was broken. His body was scarred, but his eyes were sharp. A group of young soldiers surrounded him, eager and full of fire. "Is it true," one asked, "that they didn't even fire their weapons?" Thrix nodded. "Not one. They didn't have to." "What about their ships? Were they invisible?" Thrix looked up at the clouds. They were not invisible, just patient, quiet, like predators who already knew the outcome. Another soldier leaned forward. "If they were so powerful, why didn't they conquer us?" Thrix smiled sadly. "Because they didn't care about ruling stars. They only cared about their home." He pointed upward, and they warned us to stay away. The soldiers were silent for a moment. Then one whispered, "And we didn't listen." "No," Thrix said, "we didn't." He stood slowly, his legs stiff with age. "But we learned." On the edges of Terran space, deep in the dark, a small Terran vessel drifted silently. Inside, one human stood at the observation window, an old woman in a black and red uniform. Her name was Captain Lyra Vostot. She had seen the wars. She had given the warning. Now she watched the stars. Beside her, a young officer approached. "Captain, long-range scans show no movement in 1,000 sectors. Total quiet." Voss nodded. "Good." The officer hesitated. "Do you think they've changed?" Voss didn't answer right away. Then she said, "Fear changes people, but so does silence." She placed her hand on the glass. "We didn't want war. We only wanted space to breathe. But they forced our hand, so we gave them one message." "They?" Officer asked. "And if they forget?" Voss's eyes narrowed. Her voice dropped low. "Then they'll hear it again. Elsewhere, in a hidden chamber buried beneath an abandoned moon. An AI woke from sleep. Its name was Sentinel Core 1. Its only purpose, to protect Terran space. No commands. No leaders. Just a rule coded deep into its mind. No entry. No exception. No mercy. It scanned the stars. Nothing moved. So it returned to sleep. Waiting. Always ready. Across the galaxy, legends grew. Some said humans had found a way to erase time itself. Others believed they spoke to the stars. A few thought Terran space had become something living, but no one knew for sure, because no one ever crossed the line again. Not after the fleets vanished. Not after the stars twisted. Not after the heartbeat. The silence remained. It stretched across systems. It echoed in memories. It lived in fear. But for humanity, it was peace. They had found a way to be left alone, not by building walls, but by becoming something no one dared disturb. Asterisk.